They say prison breaks men. That it crushes pride, strips dignity, and leaves nothing behind but silence and regret. Maybe that's true for most. But for me, prison didn't break anything, it sharpened it. My name is Theodore Griffin, and the damp concrete walls of Dallas County Jail had become my calendar. With a rough thumbnail, cracked from years of neglect, I carved another mark into the metal frame of my bunk. One thin line among hundreds. 729 days. Tomorrow would make it 730. Tomorrow, I would walk out. The air inside the cell was thick and sour, carrying the scent of rust, sweat, and hopeless men who had stopped counting. Even at night, the Texas heat pressed down like a lid on a coffin. I sat cross-legged on a mattress barely thicker than cardboard, staring at the ceiling where paint peeled like dead skin. 2 years ago, I slept beneath silk sheets in a Highland Park mansion. 2 years ago, I signed contracts worth millions before breakfast. 2 years ago, I was the founder and chairman of Sterling Industries, a company valued at over $70 million. Now I was inmate A47239. The memory hit like a punch. The courtroom, the polished wood, the heavy silence. The judge's eyes were cold, uninterested. And then there was my son, Logan Griffin. He stood at the witness stand in a tailored suit, voice trembling just enough to sound believable. He said he loved his father. Said it hurt him to speak. Said I had pushed his pregnant wife down the stairs in a fit of rage. I remember watching him and realizing something horrifying. He wasn't afraid. Beside him sat Delilah, pale and fragile in a wheelchair, hands folded over a stomach that no longer carried life. Her tears fell on command. Her voice cracked perfectly as she described pain, fear, and betrayal. Every word was a lie. I had gone to Logan's office that day because money was missing. Over $1 million quietly siphoned from company accounts. I confronted him. We argued. Delilah screamed. Then she threw herself down the stairs when she realized I was calling auditors. Conveniently, the security cameras malfunctioned. Conveniently, the footage only showed me standing at the top, anger on my face. When the gavel fell, my world collapsed. I watched Logan put an arm around Delilah, comforting her. And for a split second, he looked at me. Not with guilt. With calculation. He froze my accounts before sentencing. Claimed I was unstable. Cut me off from my own money. Without resources, I couldn't fight properly. The public defender assigned to me suggested a plea deal. I refused. I lost everything instead. A raspy voice pulled me back to the present. You excited, old man. Carl Bennett, my cellmate. 60-something, why a fraud, sharp eyes dulled by regret. The closest thing I had to a friend in this place. Just counting, I said. You don't look like someone about to be free, he muttered. More like someone waiting for something. I met his gaze and allowed myself a thin smile. Because prison isn't the hell, I said quietly. It's what comes after. Carl stuttered me but didn't press. I stood and looked into the cracked mirror above the sink. Grey streaked my hair. My face was leaner, harder. My eyes were darker now, burned clean by rage and patience. Tomorrow, the cell door would open. Tomorrow, my son would be waiting. And tomorrow, the man they buried would walk back into the world. They thought I was leaving prison with nothing, but they had no idea what I had already set in motion. The announcement echoed down the corridor just after lunch. Griffin. Visitation. I didn't need to ask who it was. Only one person still came, and he never came out of love. The visitation room smelled of disinfectant and stale coffee. A thick pane of scratched plexiglass divided the space, phones hanging on curled cords like relics from another century. I took my seat slowly, deliberately, and waited. Logan arrived first. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than a guard's monthly salary. His tie was knotted perfectly, his hair styled with care. He looked tired, but not guilty. That detail mattered. A moment later, Delilah appeared beside him, thinner than before, dressed in soft colors meant to signal fragility. She leaned heavily on Logan's arm, though I noticed she didn't need help sitting down. They picked up their phones. I waited. Dad, Logan said finally, his voice cracking on cue. Tomorrow's the day. So I've heard, I replied, lifting my receiver at last. He swallowed. We've been managing things while you were away, keeping the company stable. I almost laughed. Delilah leaned closer to the glass. We sacrificed so much, Theodore. The stress nearly broke us. The stress, I repeated. Not the lies. Logan's jaw tightened. Let's not do this. The auditors arrive tomorrow. We need access to the trust fund. Just $2 million. Temporary theft. Permanent betrayal. You froze my accounts, I said calmly. Lived in my house. Sat in my chair. And now you want a favor. He leaned forward, urgency breaking through the polish. The bank requires biometric verification. Fingerprint. Facial scan. We just need you present. So that's it, I said. Not family. Not forgiveness. A key. Delilah's eyes hardened. You're being selfish. I smiled thinly. Careful. Selfish is a word best used by thieves. Logan slammed his palm against the counter. You walk out tomorrow with nothing. No money. No power. No family. Sign the transfer, or enjoy your freedom broke. A shadow moved behind them. A woman stepped into view. Grace. My daughter stood there in a fitted black suit, hair pulled back tight, face unreadable. She picked up the phone slowly, eyes meeting mine through the glass. Grace. I breathed. Father, she said evenly. You should cooperate. It's best for the company. The words hurt more than the sentence ever did. Even you. I asked quietly. She hesitated, just a fraction of a second, then looked away. This isn't personal. Logan exhaled, relieved. See. She understands. I studied my children, one desperate, one distant, both standing on the wrong side of truth. You've already decided who I am, I said softly. An obstacle. A liability. Delilah scoffed. You're an old man clinging to control. Maybe, I replied. Or maybe I'm patient. I stood, hanging up the phone. Logan surged forward. You're making a mistake. I turned back once, meeting his eyes. Tomorrow, I said, you'll learn the difference between having power and thinking you do. As I walked out, I heard Grace's voice behind the glass. Goodbye, Father. She didn't say it like a threat. She said it like a conclusion. By the time the gates opened the next morning, my son believed he had already won. He was about to discover how wrong he was. Morning arrived without ceremony. No drum roll. No apology. Just the heavy metallic groan of iron gates unlocking after 730 days. Fluorescent lights flickered as guards moved through routine motions that meant everything to me and nothing to them. I stepped forward when my name was called. The clothes they returned to me were the same ones I'd worn the day I was arrested. Wrinkled white shirt, faded jeans, worn shoes that no longer fit quite right. They felt like a costume from a life that had been stolen. The final gate slid open. Sunlight poured in like a physical force, sharp and blinding after years of artificial glare. The Texas heat wrapped around me immediately, thick with gasoline, dust, and freedom. And there they were. Cameras. Microphones. Reporters calling my name like vultures circling a carcass. At the center of it all stood Logan and Delilah, perfectly positioned for the shot. Logan wore a navy suit, face carefully arranged into remorse. Delilah clutched a bouquet of white roses, her expression delicate, tragic. They looked like a magazine cover, Forgiveness After Prison. Dad, Logan called loudly, making sure every microphone caught it. Welcome home. I didn't slow down. I walked straight toward them, then past them, as if they were nothing more than background noise. Logan stepped into my path, forcing a smile. Let's go home. We can talk privately. Home. I kept walking. His hand grabbed my arm. Don't do this, he hissed. You're embarrassing yourself. I stopped. Slowly. Deliberately. I looked down at his hand, then back up into his eyes. The cameras were inches away now, recording every breath. Let go, I said quietly, or I screamed that you're assaulting an elderly man in front of live cameras. His grip vanished instantly. Behind us, Delilah's composure cracked. He's unstable, she cried. Prison destroyed him. Then the sound cut through everything. A low, smooth engine, deep and confident. A black Rolls-Royce Phantom glided into the parking lot like it owned the ground beneath it. Chrome gleamed. The car stopped precisely 10 feet from me. Every camera swung. The driver's door opened, and a man in his early 30s stepped out. Tailored charcoal suit. Calm posture. Eyes that missed nothing. Maxwell Brooks. Even Logan recognized him. I saw the color drain from his face. Maxwell walked straight to me, ignoring the reporters completely. "Mr. Griffin," he said respectfully, "everything is prepared." He opened the rear door. I turned once, just once, toward my son and daughter-in-law. Logan stood frozen, roses slipping in Delilah's hands. Their performance had collapsed. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply let them see that the man leaving prison was not the man who entered it. Then I stepped inside. The door closed with a final, vault-like thud. Leather surrounded me. Polished wood. Silence. Power. Outside, chaos erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Logan gestured wildly. Delilah clutched his arm, panic bleeding through her mask. Maxwell started the engine. "Where to, sir?" he asked. I leaned back, closing my eyes, drawing my first true breath in 2 years. "To the sanctuary," I said. "I need to wash off their touch." The car rolled forward, smooth and unstoppable. Through the tinted glass, I watched Logan grow smaller in the distance, confused, furious, afraid. He still thought this was about freedom. He had no idea it was about war. As the city swallowed us whole, my son was already losing everything. He just hadn't checked his bank account yet. The elevator ride to the penthouse was silent except for the soft hum of machinery and my own breathing. 42 floors felt like a lifetime. With every passing second, the man I had been in prison shed another layer of skin. When the doors opened, Dallas stretched out before me in glass and steel. The city pulsed with life, traffic like veins, sunlight reflecting off towers I had helped fund decades earlier. This was my world. It always had been. I walked straight to the bathroom. Marble floors. Gold fixtures. A shower wide enough to drown memory. I turned the water as hot as it would go and stepped under it fully clothed for a moment, letting the heat pound against me. Then I stripped off the prison uniform and watched it pull at my feet like a shed identity. I scrubbed until my skin burned. 2 years of concrete. 2 years of betrayal. 2 years of pretending I was finished. When I emerged wrapped in a thick white robe, the living room no longer stood empty. Maxwell Brooks waited near the window, but he wasn't alone. A woman sat with perfect posture in a leather chair, silver hair cut short, eyes sharp enough to peel lies apart. She wore a charcoal suit without ornamentation, the kind worn by people who don't need to impress anyone. "Theodore Griffin," she said calmly. "I'm Beatrice Walsh." I didn't need the introduction. She had once been the most feared defense attorney in Texas, until she refused to bury evidence for a powerful client and paid for it with her freedom. Integrity had cost her 5 years. Maxwell spoke. "She reviewed your case while incarcerated. She believes your conviction was engineered." "Believes?" I asked. Beatrice's lips curved slightly. "I know." Maxwell placed a stack of documents on the table. "First order of business, revoking the power of attorney your son used to declare you incompetent. With your signature, you immediately regain majority shareholder control." I didn't hesitate. I signed. "Second," Maxwell continued, "we file for an emergency forensic audit. That freezes all Sterling Industries accounts. Corporate. Personal. Everything." "How long?" I asked. "Minimum 30 days, Beatrice replied. "Longer once irregularities surface." "They will," I said. "Do it." Beatrice reached into her briefcase and slid a manila envelope across the table. "No return address," she said. "Arrived this morning." Inside was a flash drive and a single sheet of paper. One sentence. 2 years of preparation. Trust Maxwell. Signed with one letter. G. My hand stilled. Grace. Maxwell plugged in the drive. His laptop filled with spreadsheets, bank transfers, shell companies, private emails, payments to offshore accounts, bribes, even a transaction linked to the technician who had corrupted the courthouse footage. "This is exhaustive," Maxwell murmured. "Whoever compiled this had direct access." I closed my eyes briefly. Grace had stood behind the glass yesterday, cold and distant. I had mistaken control for betrayal. She played him, Beatrice said quietly. Perfectly. I looked back at the city below. Freeze everything, I said. I want Logan to feel what I felt. Maxwell's fingers flew across the keyboard. Bank orders are going out now. His cards will decline by tonight. Good. One more thing, Beatrice added, handing me a photograph. Logan and Delilah sat at a high-end steakhouse, glasses raised mid-toast, smiling. On the back, in the same familiar handwriting, let them enjoy their last supper. I smiled for the first time since my release. When do we go public? I asked. Tomorrow morning, Maxwell replied. Press conference. You reclaim control. I nodded. Then let's make it unforgettable. Across the city, my son was still dining like a king, unaware that the floor beneath him had already vanished. By the time Logan reached for his wallet that night, the illusion of control would finally shatter. Sterling Steakhouse had always been a stage. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over white tablecloths, and the low murmur of wealth filled the room like background music. Deals were made here with handshakes and quiet laughter, fortunes decided between bites of perfectly cooked beef. Logan Griffin sat exactly where he wanted to be, center table, fully visible. Power should never hide. He lifted his glass, smiling with practiced ease. To growth, he said, and the future of Sterling Industries. Across from him, Richard and Patricia Holloway, old money investors with deep pockets, raised their glasses politely. Delilah sat at Logan's side in a burgundy designer dress, fingers resting possessively on his arm. So, Richard said, 15 million for 40% returns within 18 months. That's ambitious. Logan's smile didn't falter. My father built something remarkable. I'm just accelerating it. And how is your father? Patricia asked carefully. Logan dabbed his mouth with a napkin. Confused. Prison was difficult, but we are handling it compassionately. Delilah leaned in, her voice soft. Family first. The waiter arrived with the leather-bound check holder. $850. Logan barely glanced at it. He slid his black corporate card inside, confidence effortless. Keep the change. The waiter swiped the card. Beep. His smile faltered. I'm sorry, sir. It seems to have been declined. Logan chuckled lightly. Try again. Second swipe. Beep. The table grew quiet. Must be a system error, Logan said, voice tight. Once more. Third swipe. Beep. I'm very sorry, the waiter said. It says contact issuer. Delilah's hand tightened around Logan's arm. Richard and Patricia exchanged a glance, subtle but unmistakable. Delilah, Logan said quickly. Use yours. She fumbled with her purse, pulling out her card. Same account. Same result. Beep. Silence pressed in. I'll take this, Logan said, standing too fast. Excuse me. He walked briskly toward the bar, phone already at his ear. Gerald, he snapped when his CFO answered. Why aren't the cards working? The voice on the other end sounded strained. Mr. Griffin, I've been trying to reach you. All Sterling accounts are frozen. What? Logan hissed. On whose authority? Your father's, Gerald said quietly. He revoked the power of attorney. Emergency audit filed. Board approved it. Logan's stomach dropped. I'm the CEO. Legally, Gerald replied. You never were. Logan turned toward the bar's television as Gerald continued speaking. CNBC filled the screen. There I stood behind a podium, Sterling Industries logo blazing behind me. My imprisonment was based on lies. My voice rang out. While I was wrongfully convicted, my company was systematically looted. That ends today. Logan's reflection stared back at him from the polished brass fixtures, pale, stunned. Effective immediately, I continued on screen. Sterling Industries is undergoing full restructuring. Legal action will follow. Behind him, Delilah whispered urgently, Logan, people are staring. The Holloways stood. Call us, Richard said coolly. When this stabilizes. They walked away without another word. Logan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Enjoy your last supper. His knees nearly buckled. This wasn't a glitch. It was a declaration of war. As the world turned against him overnight, Logan was about to learn that losing money was the least of his problems. Logan didn't sleep that night. He lay on the edge of the hotel bed, phone vibrating non-stop on the nightstand like a living thing that refused to die. By morning, the screen showed dozens of missed calls and unread messages. Board members, lawyers, assistants, numbers he didn't recognize. He picked it up with shaking hands. The first alert came from social media. #JusticeForTheodore. Trending worldwide. What? Logan whispered. He opened the link. A single post dominated every platform: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, even news aggregators. An anonymous account had shared a medical document stamped with Mercy General Hospital seal. Patient: Delilah Pierce Griffin. Date: September 23rd. Diagnosis: spontaneous incomplete abortion. Cause: complications linked to illegal weight loss medication. Logan's breath caught. The date burned into his mind. September 23rd. Delilah's fall down the stairs, the event that destroyed my life, had occurred on September 25th. 2 days later. His fingers scrolled frantically. Comments flooded in faster than he could read them. The baby was already gone. He was framed. They sent an innocent man to prison. She lied. Logan threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the carpet. Delilah stirred beside him. What's wrong? Get up, Logan said hoarsely. She sat up, blinking. Logan. He shoved the tablet into her hands, the screen glowing with the medical record. Explain this. Her face drained of color. This is fake, she said quickly. Your father. Don't, Logan snapped. I already called the hospital. He turned on speaker. Dr. Jones's voice came through after a long pause. Mr. Griffin. Yes, the record is authentic. Delilah gasped. Was it leaked illegally? Logan demanded. Yes, the doctor admitted. But it's genuine. The call ended. Silence filled the room like poison gas. You lost the baby before the fall, Logan said slowly. You already knew. Delilah's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time. I was scared. You said everything depended on that air. Logan staggered back. You threw yourself down the stairs. I panicked, she cried. Your father was threatening audits. I thought, if it looked real, we'd be safe. Safe. Logan laughed, a hollow, broken sound. You sent my father to prison for a child that was already dead. You wanted the company. Delilah screamed. I just gave you the excuse. The words hit harder than any blow. Outside, sirens wailed. News vans pulled into the driveway, cameras already assembling. Logan sank onto the bed, head in his hands. He hadn't just lost money. He had destroyed his father. And the world now knew it. His phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. The truth always surfaces. Logan stared at the screen, finally understanding what it meant to have nothing. As cameras closed in and alliances collapsed, Logan was about to lose the only place he had left to hide. The iron gates of the Highland Park mansion swung open just after 3 in the afternoon. Logan stood barefoot in the doorway, eyes bloodshot, shirt wrinkled from a night that had crushed whatever confidence he had left. The sound of a luxury engine pulling into the circular drive made his stomach tighten. A black Bentley rolled to a smooth stop. I stepped out first. Behind me came Maxwell Brooks, calm and precise, followed by 2 uniformed police officers and a court-appointed official holding a thick folder. A moving truck idled at the curb, its engine rumbling patiently. Logan's mouth fell open. What the hell is this? The official adjusted his glasses and spoke in a neutral tone. Property deed 4729. Sole ownership registered to Theodore Griffin. Premarital asset. Court order grants immediate repossession and eviction. Logan shook his head in disbelief. That's impossible. This is my home. I met his gaze, my voice steady. No. This is my house. You were allowed to live here. Delilah rushed out in a silk robe, hair unkempt, panic flashing across her face. You can't do this. I turned to her slowly. Everything you own that was purchased with company fund stays. Personal items only. She screamed. My clothes, my bags. Stolen money, I said flatly. They stay. The officers stepped forward. Logan's voice cracked. Dad, please. Let's talk privately. Too late, I replied. A second car pulled in. Grace stepped out of a navy blue sedan, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. Sunglasses hid her eyes, but her posture was rigid, controlled. Logan's face lit up with desperate hope. Grace, thank God. Tell him this is insane. Grace walked past him without a word and stopped in front of me. Father, she said quietly, this will destroy him. He destroyed himself, I answered. She glanced back at Logan, then lowered her gaze. I tried. Logan grabbed her arm. Grace, please. She gently pulled free. You made your choices. I made mine. She walked away. 30 minutes later, Logan and Delilah stood outside the closed gates with 3 suitcases and 2 duffel bags, the entirety of what they could legally claim. Neighbors filmed from across the street. Phones were raised. Whispers spread. The gates slid shut with electronic finality. By nightfall, every Dallas news channel would be running the footage. 3 days later, Logan sat on the edge of a sagging bed in a roadside motel that smelled of mildew and defeat. The air conditioner rattled uselessly. A faucet dripped steadily, marking time like a countdown. He counted the cash again. $180. Delilah paced the room. I can't live like this. Then leave, Logan said dully. With what money? She snapped. Silence fell. Finally, Logan picked up his phone and dialed the only number left. Grace answered after 4 rings. What do you want, Logan? Please, he whispered. Tell Dad I'm sorry. I'll do anything. There was a pause. You chose greed over family, Grace said quietly. I can't fix that. The line went dead. Logan stared at the dark screen, realizing the truth had settled in permanently. He hadn't just lost a house. He had lost everyone who mattered. With nowhere left to run, Logan was about to face the consequences he had avoided for years. The boardroom on the 40th floor of Caldwell Plaza was silent in a way that made people uncomfortable. Not the quiet of respect, but the quiet that came before something irreversible. I sat at the head of the long marble table, hands folded, posture calm. 8 board members occupied the remaining seats, each one carefully neutral, each one aware that this meeting would reshape Sterling Industries forever. Behind me, Maxwell Brooks connected his laptop to the wall display. Let's begin, I said. The screen flickered to life, showing a sharp downward graph. During Logan Griffin's operational control, I continued, Sterling Industries experienced a 40% drop in net profit and a 200% increase in debt. Murmurs rippled through the room. Maxwell clicked again. Lines of data appeared, bank transfers, dates, amounts. More concerning, he said, are these transactions. Numbers highlighted in red. Lux Consulting LLC, Maxwell continued, paid $1.5 million over 18 months for interior design services. Richard Garrett, one of the founding board members, frowned. That's excessive. It's fraudulent, Maxwell corrected. Lux Consulting is a shell company. Another click. Owned by Delilah Griffin, he added. Incorporated 3 days after Theodore Griffin's conviction. The room erupted in whispers. The doors burst open. Logan stumbled inside, escorted by security guards who were already too late to stop him. His clothes were wrinkled, hair unkempt, eyes wild with desperation. I'm still the CEO, he shouted. This meeting is illegal. I didn't turn around. You're nothing, I said calmly. You were never legally appointed. Logan laughed bitterly. You don't have the votes. Actually, I replied, standing slowly, I have 70% of voting shares. Logan froze. That's impossible. Not anymore, Maxwell said coolly. Your power of attorney was revoked. It was the only thing propping you up. Logan's voice dropped. You still need a majority vote. I nodded once. Correct. I looked toward the doors. Maxwell, invite our final board member. The doors opened again. Grace Griffin walked in. She wore a white suit, hair pulled back, face composed but pale. She took her seat without looking at Logan. Grace, Logan breathed, relief flooding his voice. Tell them this is insane. Grace opened a leather portfolio and placed it on the table. Mother's trust, she said evenly. 30% ownership. Dad and I are co-holders. Logan staggered back. You said those shares were dissolved. You assumed, Grace replied. Like you assumed everything else. She slid documents across the table. Emails. Invoices. Correspondence. For 2 years, she continued, voice steady despite trembling hands, I documented everything. Bribes. Fake vendors. Manipulated records. I pretended to stand with you so you wouldn't hide it from me. Logan's face twisted in disbelief. You betrayed me. Grace stood. You betrayed our father. Tears welled, but her voice did not break. You sent an innocent man to prison for money. She sat back down. I vote yes, Grace said. Terminate Logan Griffin. Pursue criminal prosecution. I raised my hand. One by one, every board member followed. Unanimous, I said quietly. Security stepped forward. Logan's knees buckled. Grace, please. She turned her chair toward the window, refusing to look back. As he was dragged away, Logan shouted my name. I didn't respond. The door closed. The lock clicked. And just like that, the empire returned to its rightful hands. With the board's verdict sealed, the law was next, and it would be far less forgiving. The courthouse buzzed like a disturbed hive. Reporters packed the stone steps, cameras hoisted, voices overlapping as they speculated on the fall of a once golden heir. Inside, the air was colder, heavier, thick with the weight of consequences long delayed. I sat in the front row of the courtroom, spine straight, hands resting calmly in my lap. Grace sat beside me, dressed in black, her fingers lightly touching mine. She hadn't slept much. Neither had I. But we were steady. Across the room, Logan sat at the defendant's table. The orange jumpsuit looked wrong on him, too bright, too honest. His wrists were cuffed. His shoulders slumped. The boy who once believed the world owed him obedience now avoided eye contact with everyone, especially me. Delilah sat 2 seats away, hollow-eyed and rigid. They didn't look at each other. Whatever bond they had forged in lies had rotted under the light of truth. All rise. Judge Marlene Kellerman entered, her presence commanding immediate silence. She took her seat and surveyed the room with practiced precision. Mr. Logan Griffin, she began, voice sharp and unwavering. You have been found guilty of embezzlement, wire fraud, bribery, and conspiracy to commit perjury. Logan's head dipped. For crimes committed over an extended period, she continued, and for your role in framing an innocent man, this court sentences you to 15 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. No eligibility for early parole. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Logan exhaled shakily, hands clenched, as if the weight of the number had physically struck him. The judge turned her attention to Delilah. Mrs. Delilah Griffin, she said, your cooperation with the prosecution has been noted. However, your role in fabricating evidence and manipulating testimony cannot be ignored. Delilah's lips trembled. This court sentences you to 12 years in state prison. Her shoulders sagged. She didn't cry. I didn't react. Not outwardly. Justice didn't require celebration. As the bailiffs moved forward, Logan looked up. His eyes found mine for the first time that day. There was no anger left in them. Only disbelief, and something that looked dangerously close to regret. I held his gaze, unmoving. Not cruel. Not kind. Final. They led him away. Outside, the Texas sky stretched wide and unforgiving. The reporters shouted questions as we descended the courthouse steps, but I didn't stop. Grace did. She turned to me once we reached the bottom. Dad, she whispered. It's over. I pulled her into my arms, and for the first time in 2 years, I let myself break. The sobs came deep and unrestrained, grief for the son I lost, gratitude for the daughter who never truly left, and mourning for the man I used to be. I wouldn't let him win, Grace said softly against my shoulder. Not after what he did to you. I held her tighter. You gave up everything to protect me. She shook her head. I gave up an illusion. Behind us, Maxwell Brooks and Beatrice Walsh stood at a respectful distance, giving us space. This moment belonged only to us. Family, real family, stood when everything burned. But even with the verdict delivered, One final chapter remained, one that would decide what legacy truly meant. The visitation room at the Texas State Penitentiary was quieter than the one I remembered. Not calmer, just heavier. The walls were painted a dull, defeated beige, the kind meant to drain color from every thought. I sat alone at the metal table, hands folded, waiting. Across from me sat an empty chair. Then the door opened. Logan stepped inside under guard escort, chains rattling softly with each movement. The orange uniform hung loose on him now, as if even prison refused to claim him fully. His face was thinner, eyes sunken, the arrogance burned out of him by months of isolation and regret. He sat down slowly. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "Dad," Logan finally said, his voice low. "I didn't think you'd come." "I didn't come for you," I replied evenly. I slid a manila envelope across the table. Logan stared at it, then picked it up with shaking hands. He pulled out the document inside, eyes scanning quickly, then stopping. His breath caught. "Transfer of ownership," he read aloud. "Sterling Industries. 100%. Grace Eleanor Griffin." His hands trembled harder. "You're giving her everything." "I already did," I said. 6 months ago." Logan looked up, eyes glassy. "And me?" I leaned forward slightly. "You lost the right to ask that question when you chose greed over blood." His lips parted. "I was your son." "You were," I said quietly. "You made sure I would never forget what you became." Tears slipped free now, unguarded. "I didn't know about the miscarriage," he whispered. "I swear it." I held his gaze. "You knew I was innocent." That silence said everything. "I'm sorry," Logan choked. "I'll do anything. Work any job. Don't erase me." I stood. "You erased yourself," I said. "You will serve your 15 years. When you leave this place, you will have no name, no legacy, and no father." I turned toward the door. "Dad," Logan cried. "Please." I paused, but I did not turn around. "I buried my son the day you sent me to prison," I said. "What's left here is only consequence." The door clanged shut behind me. Outside, the Texas sun blazed across the horizon, bright and unforgiving. Grace waited beside the black sedan, arms crossed, a faint smile on her face. "How did it go?" she asked gently. "It's done," I replied. She nodded. "Good." I looked at her, the daughter who carried loyalty like armor, who sacrificed comfort for truth. "You ready to run an empire?" I asked. She smiled. "I've been running it." As the car pulled away, the prison walls shrank in the mirror, then vanished entirely. Some doors close forever. Others lead exactly where you belong. With the past finally sealed behind me, the future stood waiting, and it was stronger than anything I had lost. 1 year after I walked out of prison, I stood in the corner office of Sterling Industries and watched the city wake up. Morning sunlight spilled across the glass walls, illuminating a skyline that no longer felt hostile. Dallas had always been my city, but for a long time, it felt like it belonged to ghosts. Not anymore. Behind me, the soft click of heels announced Grace's arrival. She placed a tablet on the desk, calm and composed, the same way she handled everything now. Majority owner. Leader. Quarterly numbers just came in, she said. Up 32% year over year. I nodded. You cleaned house. We cleaned house, she corrected. Sterling Industries was no longer bloated with corruption and ego. The audits had been ruthless. Entire departments replaced. Contracts renegotiated. Vendors prosecuted. The company had shed rot the way a body rejects poison. And the market had rewarded us for it. Grace moved to the window beside me. For a moment, we stood in silence, two people bound not by convenience, but by survival. "Do you regret it?" she asked quietly. I didn't need to ask what she meant. "No," I said after a moment. "I regret that it was necessary." She nodded once. Grace had become something formidable, not hardened, but precise. She led with transparency, demanded accountability, and had no tolerance for shortcuts. The board respected her. The employees trusted her. Investors followed her. Elizabeth would have been proud. Later that afternoon, we attended a press conference. Reporters filled the room, eager for statements, updates, Sound bites. A hand went up. Mr. Griffin, a journalist asked, do you consider what happened with your son justice or revenge? The room went still. I leaned toward the microphone. Justice restores balance, I said. Revenge feeds wounds. What happened was consequence. Another reporter asked, do you believe prison changed you? Yes, I answered. It showed me who stayed and who didn't. Afterward, as the crowd dispersed, Maxwell Brooks joined us. Logan filed an appeal, he said quietly. Grace stiffened. Does it have merit? Maxwell shook his head. None. It'll be denied. I felt no satisfaction. No anger. Only distance. That evening, I sat alone in my study at home, my home, surrounded by books, quiet, and the soft ticking of a clock. On the desk lay an old photograph, Logan and Grace's children, standing between Elizabeth and me, all of us smiling without suspicion. I picked it up, studied it for a long time, then placed it back in the drawer. Some memories don't deserve daily air. I poured a glass of whiskey and stepped onto the balcony. The city lights flickered on below, steady and alive. I wasn't the same man who had entered prison. I was smaller in some ways, sharper in others, but I was free. And for the first time in years, the future didn't feel like something to fear. Yet even after a year of peace, I would soon learn that consequences have echoes, and not all of them fade quietly. Peace is deceptive. It settles in quietly, convinces you that the storm has passed for good. For nearly a year, my life moved with a rhythm I had forgotten existed. Early mornings, clean ledgers, honest conversations. Sterling Industries thrived under Grace's leadership, and my role had softened into something advisory, almost paternal. Almost. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Maxwell's voice was calm, but I'd learned to recognize the tension beneath it. We have a situation, he said. Not a legal threat, yet. But it involves Logan. I closed my eyes slowly. Go on. There's chatter inside the penitentiary. He's talking. A lot. To the wrong people. I said nothing. He's telling other inmates he was set up, claiming you orchestrated everything from the inside. That Grace manipulated evidence. I felt the familiar cold settle in my chest. And does anyone believe him? Not officially, Maxwell replied. But narratives don't need truth to grow. They just need repetition. That afternoon, I visited Grace's office. She was reviewing contracts, glasses perched on her nose, expression focused. She looked up when I entered and immediately knew something was wrong. It's Logan, she said before I spoke. I nodded. He's rewriting history. Grace leaned back, exhaling slowly. He always does when he's cornered. What worries me, I said, isn't him. It's what desperation makes people do. Grace's jaw tightened. Are you saying he's dangerous? I'm saying regret turns into rage when it has nowhere else to go. We agreed on one thing. Silence was no longer an option. The next morning, Grace authorized the release of a full public audit. Every document, every transaction, every bribe, laid bare. Transparency, she believed, was the only antidote to distortion. The media reacted immediately. Headlines resurfaced. Interviews replayed. The story re-entered public conversation, but this time, without mystery. The facts stood on their own, unshakable. Still, echoes lingered. A week later, I received a handwritten letter. No return address. The handwriting was familiar. You took everything from me. I have nothing left to lose. It wasn't signed. I folded the letter carefully and placed it on my desk. For a long time, I simply stared at it. That night, sleep refused to come. I walked the halls of my home, listening to the quiet. Freedom had given me space, but it had also given memory room to breathe. I thought of the boy Logan once was, the man he became, the choices that built the distance between us brick by brick. Grace found me in the study just after midnight. You're thinking too much, she said gently. I'm thinking just enough, I replied. She sat across from me. He can't hurt us anymore. Maybe not directly, I said, but consequences don't always come from where you expect. Grace met my eyes. Then we stay ready. I nodded. Outside, thunder rolled faintly in the distance, far away, but unmistakable. Some storms announced themselves early. Others wait until you believe the sky is clear. And soon, the echo of my son's choices would reach far beyond prison walls, towards someone I never expected. The call came from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it. Almost. "This is Theodore Griffin," I said. A pause. Then a woman's voice, tight, controlled, professional. "Mr. Griffin, my name is Hannah Cole. I'm with Children and Family Protective Services." My grip tightened on the phone. "Why are you calling me?" "I'm calling about your granddaughter." The world narrowed to a single word. "I don't have a granddaughter." Another pause, this one heavier. "According to our records, Logan Griffin has a 6-year-old daughter. Her name is Emily." The room felt suddenly airless. Logan had never mentioned a child. Not once. Not during the trial. Not during sentencing. Not even in his last, desperate visit. "Where is she?" I asked. "She's currently in temporary care," Hannah said carefully. "Her mother passed away 2 years ago. Drug-related complications." 2 years. The same year I was convicted. "She was living with a maternal aunt," Hannah continued. "But circumstances changed. We are reviewing next of kin placement." I sat down slowly. "And you're calling me because—" "Because you're her grandfather," she said. "And because Mr. Griffin is incarcerated." After the call ended, I sat in silence for a long time. A child. Logan had created a life while destroying mine, and left her buried under his secrets. Grace arrived within the hour. I told her everything. Her face went pale. "He hid a child." "He hid responsibility," I replied. Same pattern. "What are you thinking?" she asked. I stood. "I'm thinking no child deserves to pay for a parent's sins." The next day, we met Emily. She sat in a small, brightly painted room at a family services center, legs swinging nervously from a plastic chair. Brown curls framed her face. Her eyes, Logan's eyes, watched everything cautiously. "This is your grandfather," the caseworker said gently. Emily studied me. "You're old," she said flatly. Grace smiled despite herself. "I brought you something," I said, kneeling and offering a small box. Inside was a wooden puzzle shaped like a city skyline. She took it without smiling. "Do you yell like my dad?" The question landed harder than any accusation ever had. "No," I said quietly. "And I won't." Something in her shoulders relaxed, just a fraction. Over the next weeks, we learned the truth. Logan had been absent long before prison. The child's mother had shielded Emily from his chaos as long as she could. After her death, Logan had paid for silence instead of care. I requested custody. The review process was exhaustive. Background checks. Interviews. Home evaluations. Every mistake I'd ever made resurfaced under fluorescent lights. Grace stood beside me through all of it. "I won't fail her," I told the social worker. "I failed once. That ends here." The decision came on a Friday afternoon. Temporary guardianship granted. Emily moved into my home the following week. She didn't smile much at first. She watched, listened, tested boundaries. But every night, she asked the same question. "Will you still be here tomorrow?" And every night, I answered the same way. Yes. Some legacies end in prisons. Others begin unexpectedly, with a small hand reaching for yours. Just as I began to understand my new role, Logan learned the truth, and his reaction would force one final reckoning. Logan found out about Emily on a rainy Wednesday afternoon. I know because the prison chaplain called me first. "Mr. Griffin," he said carefully, "your son had an incident this morning." I closed my eyes. Define incident. "He was informed that his daughter has been placed under your guardianship." His reaction was volatile. Volatile was a gentle word. Later, Maxwell filled in the rest. Logan had screamed at guards, accused the system of stealing his child, claimed I was manipulating the courts to erase him completely. He had to be restrained. Sedated. Moved to solitary for 48 hours. When I told Grace, her expression didn't change, but her hands clenched. "He never wanted to be a father," she said. "He wanted control." That night, I received another letter. This one was different. Messy. Ink smeared as if written in a rush. "You took my daughter. You crossed a line you can't uncross. She's mine. I folded the letter slowly, carefully, then placed it beside the earlier one. I didn't reply. 2 weeks later, the official request came. Logan was demanding a supervised call with Emily. The caseworker advised caution. Grace advised refusal. Emily decided for us. Is he the dad who left? She asked quietly. Yes, I answered. She thought for a long time. I don't want to talk to him. That was the end of it. Logan's response was predictable. He filed motions from prison. Accusations. Appeals. Claims of emotional manipulation. None of it held legal weight, but all of it carried venom. Then came the call I hadn't expected. Dad, Logan said through the monitored prison line, his voice hoarse. Just talk to me. I almost hung up. Almost. You don't get to demand anything anymore, I said calmly. She's my blood, he snapped. So was I replied. Silence stretched between us. You think you're some hero now, Logan said bitterly. Stealing my kid to rewrite your ending. I didn't steal her, I said. I protected her. Something you never learned to do. He laughed, a broken, sharp sound. You're raising her to hate me. No, I said. I'm raising her to feel safe. That broke him. His voice cracked, anger collapsing into something smaller. I don't want her forgetting me. I closed my eyes. For a brief moment, I saw the boy he once was, eager, reckless, desperate to matter. Then live in a way worth remembering, I said. Even from where you are. The line went dead. That night, Emily sat beside me on the couch, coloring quietly. Do you ever get mad? She asked suddenly. Yes, I said honestly. What do you do with it? I thought for a moment. I make sure it doesn't choose my actions. She nodded, satisfied, and went back to coloring. In that moment, I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't about punishing Logan anymore. It was about breaking a cycle. Some people scream when they lose control. Others learn to let go. And the difference between the two determines what survives. As Logan's rage burned itself out behind bars, a quieter transformation was taking place, one that would decide what my story truly meant. Emily started calling the house home sometime in the 3rd month. It wasn't an announcement. No dramatic moment. Just a quiet shift in language that carried more meaning than anything spoken aloud. Can we eat dinner at home tonight? Is Grace coming home late? Will you read to me before bed? Each time, the word landed gently, and stayed. Our days settled into a rhythm. School drop-offs. Homework at the kitchen table. Sunday mornings where sunlight spilled across the floor and cartoons played too loudly. Grace adjusted her schedule without complaint, carving out time she protected fiercely. Board meetings moved. Calls were rescheduled. Some things mattered more now. One evening, Emily asked to see old photographs. I hesitated, then opened the drawer. She studied the pictures carefully, Elizabeth smiling, Grace as a teenager, Logan as a boy standing beside me with a grin too big for his face. Is that my dad? She asked. Yes. She tilted her head. He looks different. He was, I said. She considered that. Do people change back? The question cut deeper than she knew. Sometimes, I answered. If they choose to. She nodded, accepting the answer without pressing. Children often understand what adults resist. Months passed. Logan stopped writing. The prison chaplain later told me Logan had withdrawn. Less anger, fewer outbursts. Regret, finally settling in where rage had lived. He attended classes. Kept his head down. It didn't erase what he'd done, but it changed what came next. I didn't visit again. Some endings don't need witnesses. On the anniversary of my release, Grace hosted a small dinner. No press. No speeches. Just the 3 of us at the table, laughing over a meal that tasted like normal life. Later that night, after Emily was asleep, Grace joined me on the balcony. You okay? She asked. I am, I said truthfully. She smiled. You know, most people don't get a second chance like this. I didn't earn it, I replied. I was given it. She leaned against the railing. Mom would have loved her. I swallowed. Yes, she would have. Below us, The city glowed, busy, alive, indifferent to the past. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to conquer it. I felt the need to protect what I had. Weeks later, Emily brought home a school assignment titled My Family. She handed it to me shyly. Inside was a drawing, Grace, herself, and me holding hands in front of a house with a crooked roof and a sun too big for the sky. Underneath, she had written, "Family is who stays." I folded the paper carefully and held it longer than necessary. That night, as I turned off the lights, I thought about everything I had lost, and everything I had gained in its place. I lost a son to greed. I gained a daughter through loyalty. I gained a child through responsibility. And I gained myself through truth. This is my story. Not of revenge, but of consequence. Not of power, but of character. Blood can betray you. Love can save you. And legacy is not what you leave behind. It's what you protect while you're still here.